You were born with inherent greatness. You weren't born to take up space. You were born to take territory. Before you had a name, you had value. Before anyone celebrated your arrival, heaven had already confirmed your assignment. That's why you can't let the world, your environment, or your upbringing convince you that you are ordinary. You are not random. You are not accidental. You are intentional, crafted, purpose-designed. And until you wake up to that truth, you will live far beneath the standard that was assigned to you. You see, when a manufacturer creates a product, they don't release it to the market until it's been tested, proven, and ready to perform. In the same way, your life came with built-in greatness, ready to dominate in the field you were assigned to. You weren't made to blend in, you were born to stand out. But here's the catch. Greatness never announces itself in comfort zones. You must awaken to the truth that you are not waiting on something magical to happen. The magic is already in you. What you need is not more favor. It's more awareness of the favor that's already within your DNA. Do you know why lions never eat grass, even when they're hungry? It's not because they can't. It's because they know who they are. They are lions. Even in starvation, they will die before they bow to an identity that isn't theirs. That's the kind of confidence you need to walk in. Even when your bank account doesn't agree, even when your surroundings contradict your dreams, you must remind yourself, I am royalty. I don't beg, I attract. I don't chase, I command. I don't blend, I lead. The world will always test your identity before it respects your authority. There are people walking around today acting like victims when they were designed to be victors. They're rehearsing rejection, betrayal, abandonment, and failure instead of rehearsing destiny, legacy, and greatness. What you rehearse becomes your reality. If you keep speaking defeat, you will produce defeat. But when you start speaking identity, when you look in the mirror and say, I am enough, I am more than capable, I am chosen for something bigger than this, your life begins to align with those declarations. Life responds to the voice of belief. When you shift your self-perception, you shift your outcomes. Let me make this practical. Think about the people you admire, the leaders, the innovators, the ones dominating in business, music, sports, ministry, or technology. They don't walk around waiting for validation. They act like the best because they believe they were born for it. Confidence is not arrogance, it's awareness. Awareness of what's in you. Awareness of the assignment on your life. Awareness of the kingdom within. You don't need people to believe in you if you believe in you. The world doesn't give crowns. It only recognizes those who already wear them internally. Remember this, poverty of identity is more dangerous than poverty of resources. A person with no money, but full awareness of their purpose will create wealth. But a person with all the resources in the world and no identity will still live like a beggar. That's why many die full of potential, but empty of impact. They never realize that greatness isn't given by man. It's embedded by design. When you walk into a room, don't shrink. Own your presence. Speak like someone who knows what they carry. Don't apologize for being confident. Don't dim your light because others feel insecure in your brightness. You weren't made to be tolerated. You were made to be celebrated. But people can only celebrate what you first believe about yourself. If you treat your life like a discount brand, don't be surprised when people give you clearance, rack attention. But if you carry yourself like a designer original, people will approach you with honor and respect. You teach the world how to treat you based on how you treat yourself. Let me tell you something powerful. There's no competition when you understand your assignment. No one is better than you at being you. And your greatness is not found in copying someone else. It's in mastering your own authenticity. When you stop chasing validation and start acting like the masterpiece you are, everything changes. Your energy changes. Your circle changes. Your doors begin to open without you knocking. Why? Because confidence has a fragrance and it attracts results. In school, you might have been labeled average. At work, you might be overlooked. In your family, you may not be the favorite. But none of those voices matter if you stop listening to them and start listening to the voice within, the one that whispers, "You were made for more. You carry power. You have influence. You are the answer to someone's problem. You are the solution in human form." And when you believe that, when you begin to carry yourself like the best, not in ego, but in identity, you stop settling for crumbs because you know you were born to sit at the table. The problem isn't that life is unfair. The problem is that too many people are walking around unaware. And life will never give to you what you haven't first claimed. So claim your greatness, claim your space, speak with boldness, move with clarity. Carry yourself as if you are the best, because when you were created, the mold was broken. No one else can duplicate what you carry. You're not one in a million. You are one of one. You are the evidence of intentional greatness. The world doesn't need another copy. It's waiting for your original. Identity precedes destiny. Before you can ever walk in what you were born to do, you must first recognize who you were born to be. The world doesn't give you permission to succeed until you give yourself permission to exist fully, boldly, and without apology. Too many people are running after purpose with a broken sense of self. They're chasing titles, success platforms, validation, but deep inside they're confused about their identity. And that confusion becomes the silent saboteur of their own greatness. Because the truth is this: if you don't know who you are, the world will use you for who you are not. You can't walk confidently into a future you haven't prepared for mentally. Your identity sets the tone. It's the foundation of every decision, every relationship, every opportunity. It shapes how you respond to pressure, how you recover from failure, and how you carry yourself in moments of elevation. Purpose without identity is like a car without a steering wheel. You have the engine, the power, the capacity, but no direction. You'll keep moving, but you'll crash every time. That's why discovering your identity is not optional. It's critical. Every building that stands tall has one thing in common. It was built on a strong foundation. Identity is that foundation. And if the foundation is weak, it doesn't matter how beautiful the exterior is. One storm can take it all down. The same goes for your life. If you build your self-worth on applause, it will collapse with criticism. If you build your confidence on income, it will disappear with job loss. If you build your purpose on people, it will shatter when they leave. But if you build it on the unshakable truth of who you are, on identity, nothing can move you. You are not your job. You are not your past. You are not your mistakes. You are not even your accomplishments. You are something deeper, something more powerful. You are purpose wrapped in skin. You are potential in motion. You are vision walking. But until you see that, nothing around you will shift. Your life will only rise to the level of your self-perception. And if your identity is broken, your destiny will stay buried. Not because you aren't gifted, but because you don't believe you deserve to operate in your gift. Look at the child who grows up constantly being told they'll never amount to anything. They begin to live out that belief, not because it's true, but because it was planted early. Now imagine that same child being told, you are chosen, you are powerful, you are a leader. That child begins to walk differently, talk differently, Expect differently. Why? Because identity creates posture. It creates a tone in your voice, a standard in your decisions, and a fire in your soul. When you know who you are, you don't chase, you attract. You don't follow the crowd, you lead the movement. You don't beg for a seat, you build the table. Destiny doesn't respond to insecurity, it responds to clarity. You have to wake up every day and declare who you are, even when you don't feel it, especially when you don't feel it, because repetition builds conviction, and conviction shapes reality. Say it even when your circumstances say otherwise. I am called. I am chosen. I am enough. Because when your mind aligns with your identity, your actions begin to align with your assignment. You can't walk in authority while thinking like a slave. You can't lead nations while begging for validation. You can't manifest greatness with a fractured view of self. I've seen people with fewer talents and fewer resources go further than people with more skills. Why? Because they knew who they were. Identity breeds boldness, and boldness moves mountains. You don't need the whole world to agree with you. You need to agree with yourself. When you do, your environment begins to shift. Opportunities start chasing you. Resources start finding you. People start respecting you. But none of that begins until you look in the mirror and see a king, see a queen, see a creator, a builder, a warrior, a force to be reckoned with. Think of a thermostat and a thermometer. One adjusts to the room, the other sets the temperature. When you don't know who you are, you become a thermometer, constantly reacting to your surroundings. But when identity is clear, you become the thermostat. You walk into a chaotic place and bring peace. You step into darkness and bring light. You don't adapt, you lead. But that leadership starts inside. You can't expect to change the world if you haven't changed the conversation you're having with yourself. Some of you are praying for clarity, for direction, for elevation. But God isn't waiting to give you purpose. He's waiting for you to recognize identity. Because if He gives you destiny before identity, it'll crush you. If you get the platform before the posture, it'll expose your brokenness. But when identity is in place, you don't sabotage the blessing, you steward it. You walk in rooms with presence. You sit at tables with wisdom. You stand on stages with humility and power. Why? Because you know that destiny is not something outside of you. It's something that's been waiting on you to rise. Every giant you face, every challenge you confront, every door that seems closed is not a reflection of your capacity. It's a reflection of your identity. When David faced Goliath, he didn't win because he had better weapons. He won because he knew who he was. He didn't fight with fear, he fought with identity. And when you show up like that in your own life, when you stop waiting to feel qualified and start moving like you already are, the giants fall. The doors open, the destiny unfolds. Confidence is the language of kings. It's not just a feeling, it's a posture. It's not about arrogance. It's about knowing what you carry. The problem is most people confuse humility with shrinking. They confuse being polite with being invisible. They walk around quieting their voice, hiding their brilliance, dimming their fire, and calling it humility. That's not humility. That's insecurity dressed up as virtue. True confidence is magnetic. It doesn't scream, it speaks with authority. It doesn't boast, it walks with assurance. You can tell when someone knows who they are, not by how loud they are, but by how grounded they are. When a king walks into a room, he doesn't need to announce his presence. His confidence announces it for him. His posture, his gaze, his stillness, his clarity, all of it speaks without him uttering a single word. You can feel it. It's in how he walks, how he listens, how he makes decisions without second guessing. Why? Because he's not trying to become something. He knows he already is. And that's what so many people are missing. They're trying to earn the confidence that should be flowing from identity. Let me tell you something that will shake your spirit. You don't become confident after you succeed. You become successful after you choose confidence. That's the order. Confidence is not the result, it's the requirement. If you wait until everything is perfect to walk like a king, you'll never walk into anything powerful. Confidence is the key that unlocks the next level. It's not earned, it's claimed. It's the decision to show up as if you already have the victory, even when the battle hasn't started. You don't need a crown to act like royalty. You don't need a degree to speak with authority. You don't need approval to move with power. What you need is alignment. Alignment between how you see yourself and what was placed inside of you before you were ever born. That's the kind of confidence that changes atmospheres. You can always tell when someone knows they belong in the room. They don't sit on the edge of their seat hoping to be noticed. They sit at the table knowing they bring value to it. They don't apologize for their excellence. They wear it. Think about an eagle. It doesn't flap its wings in desperation to prove it can fly. It soars because that's what it was born to do. That's what confidence looks like in real life. Not striving, not begging, not pleading, just soaring. There are too many people flapping and not enough soaring. Too many people asking for permission when they should be walking in dominion. Your confidence must not come from applause. It must come from alignment. Confidence says, I know who I am, I know what I carry, and I refuse to apologize for it. Some people were taught to shrink to survive, but now it's time to grow to thrive. You've been through storms, through betrayal, through rejection, not to make you bitter, but to make you bold. You survived what should have broken you, and now it's time to rise like you know you carry legacy in your lungs and fire in your bones. Confidence is not built in celebration. It's built in struggle. It's in those dark moments when no one is clapping, no one is watching, and you still choose to believe in yourself anyway. That's where kings are formed. You walk into a job interview, not hoping they pick you, but knowing they need you. You start that business, not praying to be accepted, but knowing you're about to shift the entire marketplace. You step on that stage, not to impress people, but to release impact. Because once you've tasted identity, you'll never settle for insecurity again. You stop chasing people and start attracting alignment. You stop explaining yourself and start walking in clarity. Confidence turns rooms. It shifts energy. It commands attention without effort. It demands respect without noise. Imagine standing at a crossroad with two people. One is qualified but unsure. The other is still learning but bold. The world will almost always follow the bold one. Not because they're better, but because confidence leads. Confidence gives people something to believe in. It speaks to the part of us that wants to trust, follow, and be led. That's why kings rule. Not because they have the most, but because they carry themselves like they were born to. That same power is in you. The moment you start walking like you belong, doors open. People begin to treat you according to how you treat yourself. If you undervalue your voice, don't be surprised when no one listens. If you shrink your dreams to fit someone else's comfort, don't expect destiny to expand for you. Confidence is the signal that tells life you're ready for more. When you speak with boldness, when you step out without second guessing, when you enter the room like the answer instead of another question, that's when everything shifts. You are not being asked to be perfect. You are being called to be confident. There is a difference. Confidence says, I might not know it all, but I know I'm supposed to be here. Confidence says, I may not have the experience, but I've got the assignment. Confidence says, I'm not intimidated by greatness. I am greatness in motion. Confidence is not just for the elite, the rich, the educated. It's for the focused, the aligned, the awakened. You can choose it right now. You can walk in it today. You can speak it until it echoes in every room you step into. Comparison is the enemy of purpose. It's the silent thief that robs people of their confidence, their joy, and most dangerously, their calling. When you stop measuring your worth against someone else's highlight reel, you begin to shrink your own potential. And the tragedy is, most people don't even realize it's happening. They scroll through social media, walk through life, look at friends, family, co-workers, and slowly stop believing the lie, I'm not enough. But let me tell you something powerful. Purpose was never meant to be a competition. It was meant to be a revelation. You don't compete with what you were created to complete. No one on earth can beat you at being you. That's your superpower. And the moment you try to imitate someone else, you abandon the very assignment that makes you irreplaceable. You were not born to be a second-rate version of anyone else. You were born to be the only version of you. You were handcrafted, not mass-produced. Designed, not duplicated. There is something in your personality, your story, your scars, your voice, your mind, that no one else carries. The fact that someone else is shining doesn't mean your light is dim. The sky has billions of stars and none of them compete. They all shine in their own time, in their own space with their own brilliance. But comparison is subtle. It shows up as admiration, then turns into insecurity. You start off inspired by someone, and before you know it, you're doubting yourself. You say things like, I wish I had their life. I wish I looked like that. I wish I was where they are. What you don't see is the full picture. You don't see the sleepless nights, the battles they fought, the doubts they conquered, the pain behind the smile. You're comparing your behind, the scenes with someone else's spotlight. And that is a battle you will never win. Because comparison blinds you to the beauty of your own journey. Let's get real. How many dreams have died not because the dream was impossible, but because the dreamer got distracted by someone else's lane? How many people started off with passion, but lost momentum when they started watching someone else's progress? You were running your race well until you started turning your head, but purpose requires focus. It demands discipline. It needs tunnel vision. You can't fulfill your assignment if you keep comparing your chapter 2 to someone else's chapter 10. You need to remind yourself daily, there's a difference between growth and competition. Growth says, I'm improving myself for the sake of my calling. Competition says, I'm trying to outdo them so I can feel better about myself. One is rooted in identity. The other is rooted in insecurity. And you cannot live purposefully when you're constantly proving yourself. The moment you start competing, you lose clarity. You chase status instead of impact. You seek applause instead of alignment. You make decisions based on what looks successful instead of what feels right for your spirit. Think about the sunflower and the rose. Both are beautiful. Both are admired, but neither of them tries to be the other. The sunflower doesn't look at the rose and feel inadequate. The rose doesn't look at the sunflower and feel superior. They simply bloom in their season, in their environment with their unique fragrance. That's how life was meant to be. You don't need to be like anyone else. You need to bloom in your lane. That's where the favor is. That's where the clarity is. That's where the breakthrough is. One of the worst things you can do is succeed at something you were never called to do. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. Just because it works for them doesn't mean it's your lane. That's the danger of comparison. It pushes you into territory that was never assigned to you. And then you wonder why you feel empty. You wonder why you're exhausted. It's because you're running on fuel that was never meant for your engine. You're wearing armor that doesn't fit you. And like David, you need to take off Saul's armor and go into battle with what actually works for you. Your slingshot, your skill set, your strategy. There are people who will never discover their genius because they are too distracted by someone else's greatness. But you must make a decision. I'm done comparing. I'm done competing. I'm done feeling less than. I choose to be fully, unapologetically, undeniably me. That's when you start attracting what's meant for you. That's when opportunities line up. That's when your gift begins to make room. Not because you became better than someone else, but because you became aligned with yourself. And remember this, the people who truly make history are not the ones who copied the most. They're the ones who dared to be original. They broke patterns. They refused to blend in. They weren't the loudest, the richest, or the most famous. They were the most authentic. They tapped into their unique purpose, and because of that, they left an impact that couldn't be erased. You can't leave a legacy trying to be someone else. You can't fulfill your calling chasing someone else's journey. You weren't built to follow the script they made for their life. You were built to write your own. Boldness activates opportunities. Nothing extraordinary in life ever opens up for those who live in fear, play it safe, or hide behind excuses. Boldness is not the absence of fear. It is the refusal to let fear have the final say. Every time you choose courage over comfort, you send a signal to the universe, to life, and to your destiny. I'm ready. Boldness is the access key. It's the master code that unlocks the doors people only dream about. You cannot tiptoe into greatness. You have to leap. You have to roar. You have to move like you belong, even if your knees are shaking and your voice is trembling. The greatest breakthroughs in your life will not come from your talent alone. They will come from the moments you dared to take a risk. The moments you showed up when you weren't invited. The moments you applied when they said you weren't qualified. The moments you spoke up when everything in you wanted to stay silent. That's what separates leaders from followers. Boldness. Not who had more connections, not who had more experience, but who had the audacity to act like they were already chosen. You can have all the vision in the world, but vision without boldness is just a dream that will never manifest. You can have a book idea, a business plan, a ministry calling, a revolutionary thought. But if you don't step out, it will rot inside you as potential that was never activated. Boldness turns ideas into impact. Boldness takes what's been sitting in your spirit and brings it into motion. The reason many people feel stuck isn't because they don't know what to do. It's because they're afraid to do it. Let me get personal. Think about the job you didn't apply for because you thought someone else was more qualified. The conversation you never had because you were afraid of rejection. The business you delayed launching because you weren't sure how people would respond. Now realize this. You didn't lose those opportunities because they weren't yours. You lost them because you were silent when you should have spoken. You hesitated when you should have moved. Life doesn't wait for perfect timing. It rewards bold timing. The ones who win are not always the most talented. They are often the most daring. Look at the most impactful people in history. Leaders, inventors, creatives, pioneers. They weren't always the smartest in the room. They weren't always liked. But they had one thing in common. They were bold enough to believe that what was inside them deserved to be seen. That's why people remember their names. They disrupted systems. They challenged traditions. They questioned the status quo. And it wasn't because they weren't afraid. It was because they didn't let fear stop them. Boldness is louder than fear. Boldness makes fear back down. Boldness makes doors that were once locked swing open without a key. There's something powerful that happens when you stop asking for permission to be great. You stop waiting for someone to validate your vision, and you start walking like it's already yours. When you carry that kind of boldness, rooms adjust when you walk in. Atmospheres shift. People take notice. Not because you begged for attention, but because you owned your authority. You moved like someone who knows that favor doesn't follow timidity, it follows tenacity. Have you ever seen a lion pace before a hunt? It doesn't worry about what the zebra thinks. It doesn't second guess its position in the food chain. It moves like it was made for domination. That's how you were created to move, not arrogantly, but authoritatively. There's a difference. Arrogance demands the spotlight. Authority doesn't need it. Boldness is not noise, it's presence. It's showing up when others quit. It's standing firm when others compromise. It's being the first to step forward when everyone else is holding back. People say they're waiting for the right moment, but the right moment is waiting for you. Opportunity is a mirror. It reflects the level of boldness you bring. If you whisper, it stays silent. If you speak up, it responds. If you wait, it walks away. But if you step up, it opens wide. Life respects courage. Destiny bows to the brave. The question is not, will the opportunity come? The real question is, will you be bold enough to grab it when it does? Think about how many people miss their moment because they want everything to be guaranteed first. They want proof before they move. But boldness moves without all the answers. Boldness steps out onto water while others are waiting for the boat. Boldness walks into unfamiliar territory, knowing that discomfort is the price of destiny. When you carry boldness, you don't chase opportunity. You create it. You don't wait for doors. You build them. You don't fit into rooms. You design them to reflect your calling. Every time you take a bold step, you not only shift your life, you inspire others to rise too. People watch how you move. Your boldness gives others permission to believe in themselves. Your courage is contagious. Your decision to go first breaks chains for people who are still waiting to feel worthy. So stop asking, what if I fail? And start asking, what if I fly? Stop rehearsing defeat and start practicing declaration. Your voice is not too loud. Your dream is not too big. Your presence is not too much. You were born to break barriers, not bow to them. Belief is a magnet for manifestation. Everything you see in your life right now, every open door, every closed one, every success, every delay is responding to what you believe deep inside. Belief is not just a thought, it's a frequency. It sends out a signal that either pulls what you desire closer or pushes it further away. Life doesn't give you what you want, it gives you what you believe. The problem is, most people don't manifest because they don't really believe they're worthy. They're saying, I want abundance, but deep down they believe they'll always struggle. They're saying, I want love, but deep down they feel unlovable. You cannot manifest what your mind does not accept as possible. Belief is the soil where all dreams are planted. You can have the best ideas, the most connections, the most resources, but if your belief is toxic, your harvest will be too. That's why two people can start with the same tools. One rises and the other doesn't. It's not because one is more talented. It's because one believed beyond what their environment told them. You have to believe when you don't see results yet. You have to believe when you're surrounded by reasons not to. Belief is the only power that multiplies when it's tested. Think about it. Every great invention, every global movement, every historic leader began with belief. Before it was ever visible, it was internal. The Wright brothers believed man could fly when others said it was foolish. Nelson Mandela believed in freedom when the world called him a prisoner. Oprah believed her voice mattered when the media industry had no room for her. Belief is what separates those who leave legacy from those who leave regret. It's what causes a person with nothing to build something that changes everything. And it's not about blind optimism. It's about a deep, unshakable conviction that says, I was born for this. I may not have it yet, but it's already mine. You've got to be careful who you let speak into your belief system, because people will project their limits onto your destiny. They'll say, no one in our family ever did that. They'll say, be realistic. They'll tell you to shrink your dream to match their fear, but you weren't born to repeat patterns. You were born to break them. Just because they couldn't see, it doesn't mean you can't manifest it. Just because it's never been done, doesn't mean it can't be done through you. Belief isn't about evidence. It's about expectation. You don't need to see it in your hands before you see it in your mind. Do you remember as a child how easy it was to believe in the impossible? How you could imagine whole worlds with your eyes closed? That child is still in you. That raw, fearless belief didn't die. It just got buried under disappointment, under criticism, under fear. But here's the truth: if you can unlearn fear, you can relearn belief. If you can remember who you were before the world told you to play small, you can tap into a power that creates reality. Faith is not fantasy. It is the fuel of every true manifestation. Every breakthrough in your life is waiting on one decision: to believe again. To stop letting your past speak louder than your potential. To stop rehearsing failure and start visualizing success. To wake up every morning and say, everything I desire is already on the way. I am in alignment. I am attracting favor, miracles, and opportunities that match my purpose. And don't just say it, feel it. Walk like it's already done. Speak like the contract is already signed. Think like the door has already opened. Because when your belief changes, your energy changes. And energy is magnetic. It pulls the unseen into the seen. It makes people ask, what is it about you? That is belief. I've seen people with no resources, no name, no connections, build empires simply because they believed in themselves when no one else did. And I've seen people with every advantage crumble because they doubted every move they made. The difference isn't opportunity, it's belief. One walks into the room expecting favor. The other walks in apologizing for their presence. One creates momentum with their mindset. The other destroys progress with their fear. Your belief can either be your ceiling or your launch pad. It can either be the weight that holds you down or the wings that lift you higher. There are doors you haven't knocked on yet because your belief said you weren't ready. There are blessings circling your life, waiting to land, but they can't because there's no runway of belief. You've got to build that runway. Prepare like it's coming. Show up like it's yours. Speak like your future is already in motion. Because the moment you shift from I hope to I know, the atmosphere shifts, life starts aligning, people start noticing, resources begin to appear. Not because the world suddenly changed, but because you did. You've got to understand that belief is not passive. It's aggressive. It chases the future. It confronts doubt. It silences fear. It fights every lie that says, you can't, and replaces it with, watch me. Every time you act in faith, you put pressure on the atmosphere to respond. Heaven doesn't respond to need, it responds to belief. You can cry, complain, wish, or beg. But when you believe, mountains move. When you believe, doors that were locked for years suddenly swing wide open. When you believe, you give God something to work with. You create space for miracles. You shift from survival to strategy. You stop reacting and start manifesting. Belief is not soft, it's a force. You've waited long enough. You've doubted yourself long enough. You've watched others rise while you sat on your potential, second-guessing your worth, questioning your timing, and playing small in a world that desperately needs you to rise. But now, right now, is the time to believe like your life depends on it. Because it does. Not just the life you're living today, but the life you could live tomorrow if you simply had the audacity to say, I was born for more. You are not behind. You are not late. You are not overlooked. You are exactly where you need to be to make a decision that shifts the entire trajectory of your life. One belief, just one, can change everything. The moment you stop seeing yourself through the lens of fear and failure and start seeing yourself through the lens of divine design, doors that were once invisible will start opening with force. You've heard the saying, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. That's not just a quote, it's a blueprint. You become what you believe. You attract what you believe. You manifest what you believe. So what are you believing about yourself? That you're average, that you're not ready, that you're too young, too old, too broken, too late. No, enough of that. Delete those lies and replace them with truth. I am chosen. I am powerful. I am enough. I am the answer someone is praying for. You've got to get to the point where your belief in yourself becomes louder than the noise around you, where your vision becomes more real to you than your current reality. That's when the shift happens. That's when fear loses its grip. That's when excuses die. That's when the version of you that was buried under doubt finally stands up and takes command of the room. The calling, the life. You are not meant to crawl in a world where you were designed to fly. So stop waiting for someone to hand you permission. Stop waiting for applause. Stop waiting for everything to be perfect. You don't need to see the whole staircase. Just take the first step. Like Martin Luther King Jr. said, faith is taking the first step even when you don't see the whole staircase. Because what's in front of you will not match what's behind you. If you choose to believe that your best is not behind you, it's still waiting to be unlocked. Let them laugh. Let them doubt. Let them misunderstand your process. Because once your belief catches fire, even your enemies will have to sit down and watch the table being prepared in your presence. They won't be able to deny the glory of a person who decided to believe against all odds. Your belief is not arrogance, it's alignment. And when you align with your purpose, the universe conspires to deliver everything you need. Remember the words of Muhammad Ali. I am the greatest. I said that even before I knew I was. That wasn't ego, that was prophecy. He spoke it. He believed it. He became it. That's the kind of boldness you must walk in. Speak what you want until what you want has no choice but to show up. Let your belief become your declaration, your standard, your weapon. Be so confident in who you are that silence feels like a roar. Be so convicted in your purpose that delay doesn't discourage you. It sharpens you. You weren't created to merely survive. You were born to dominate. You were born to lead, to create, to shift atmospheres. But none of that will manifest until you believe it deep enough to move, to speak, to show up as if it's already done. Because bold belief backed by consistent action is the most dangerous force in the universe. So what are you waiting for? Your dream is waiting on you. Your opportunity is not lost. It's waiting for your next bold move. Stop shrinking to fit the spaces you've outgrown. Stop negotiating your worth. Stop asking for permission to be powerful. Walk in like you own the room. Because if you believe it's strong enough, eventually you will.